The sleek Gulfstream G650 cuts through the evening sky, its engines humming as it descends toward the small airstrip outside Millbrook, Tennessee. Inside the luxurious cabin, billionaire John Anderson stares out the window at the rolling hills he left behind 25 years ago. His reflection in the glass shows a man who has conquered Wall Street but lost something essential along the way. "Sir, we'll be landing in 5 minutes," his pilot announces through the intercom. John adjusts his Italian silk tie and checks his Patek Philippe watch. He hadn't told anyone he was coming home. After his father's funeral last month, he'd inherited the family estate, but business had kept him away. Now, with his latest acquisition complete, he finally has time to assess the property before putting it on the market. The jet touches down smoothly on the private runway. John steps out into the humid Tennessee air, breathing in the scent of honeysuckle and fresh-cut grass that instantly transports him back to childhood. His driver loads his single suitcase into the waiting Tesla, and they begin the 20-minute drive to Anderson Manor. "How's the old place holding up, James?" John asks his longtime driver, who's flown in from New York. "Can't say, sir. This is my first time here too." The iron gates of Anderson Manor swing open automatically, revealing the winding driveway lined with ancient oak trees. As they approach the antebellum mansion, John feels a knot forming in his stomach. The white columns still gleam in the fading sunlight, and the wraparound porch looks exactly as he remembers. But what happened next shocked everyone. As the Tesla rounds the final curve, John sees something that makes his blood run cold. There, in the meticulously maintained garden behind the mansion, a young black woman in a simple blue dress is pushing a small boy on a wooden swing. The child's laughter carries on the evening breeze, pure and joyful. "Stop the car," John commands, his voice barely a whisper. James pulls over behind a cluster of magnolia trees, providing cover. John steps out slowly, his legs unsteady. The woman appears to be in her early 30s, with kind eyes and gentle movements as she tends to the child. She must be Mary Jenkins, the housekeeper his father's lawyer mentioned during the estate proceedings. But it's the boy who steals John's breath away. The child can't be more than 6 years old, with sandy brown hair that catches the golden hour light. When he turns toward the house, laughing at something Mary has said, John's heart nearly stops. The boy has the same distinctive jawline, the same deep-set blue eyes, the same stubborn cowlick that John fought with every morning as a child. "That's impossible," John whispers to himself, gripping the car door handle. Little did John know that this moment would shatter everything he thought he knew about his family. Mary lifts the boy from the swing, and he wraps his arms around her neck with complete trust. She carries him toward the house, speaking to him in gentle tones that John can't quite hear. The way she holds him, protects him, loves him, it's clear this isn't just a babysitting arrangement. John's mind races. His father never mentioned having any other children. John was an only child, or so he'd always believed. But the resemblance is undeniable, haunting. It's like looking at a photograph of himself from 30 years ago. "Sir, is everything all right?" James asks, noticing John's pale complexion. "I need a minute," John manages, watching as Mary and the boy disappear through the back door of the mansion. This decision would change everything. John pulls out his phone and dials his father's longtime attorney, Richard Blackwood. The call goes straight to voicemail. He tries the family's personal lawyer next, but gets the same result. It's past 7 o'clock on a Friday evening, of course no one's answering. As he stands there in the gathering dusk, 1,000 questions flood his mind. Who is this child? Why does he look exactly like John did at that age? And most importantly, what secrets has his family been keeping? But the real shock was still coming. Through the kitchen window, John can see warm yellow light spilling out onto the lawn. Mary moves around the kitchen with practiced ease, preparing what looks like a simple dinner. The boy sits at the kitchen table, swinging his legs from a chair that's too big for him, chattering away about something that makes Mary smile. It's a scene of domestic tranquility that John has never experienced. Growing up in this same house, dinner was a formal affair served in the dining room by staff who barely spoke. His father was always buried in business papers, his mother more concerned with social obligations than family conversations. But this looks like a real home. John realizes he's been holding his breath. The boy suddenly looks up toward the window, as if sensing someone watching. For a terrifying moment, their eyes meet across the darkening yard. The child tilts his head curiously, but Mary gently turns his attention back to his meal. John's hands are shaking now. He needs answers, and he needs them tonight. But approaching the house feels like crossing a line he can't uncross. Once he walks through that door, once he asks the questions burning in his chest, there will be no going back to the life he thought he knew. The boy laughs again, the sound carrying clearly in the still air. It's a laugh John recognizes from old home videos of himself, from birthday parties and Christmas mornings decades ago. As John steels himself to confront whatever truth awaits him inside Anderson Manor, one question echoes in his mind above all others: if this boy is who he appears to be, what other secrets has his family buried in these southern soil? John's hands trembled slightly as he gripped the mahogany doorframe, his mind racing with questions that demanded immediate answers. The boy's resemblance to himself was unmistakable, the same deep-set green eyes, the identical stubborn cowlick that no amount of styling could tame, even the way he tilted his head when concentrating. Every fiber of John's being screamed that something profound was happening here, something that could shatter everything he thought he knew about his life. Taking a deep breath, he stepped through the French doors into the garden where Mary was now helping the boy collect scattered toy cars from the perfectly manicured lawn. The sound of his footsteps on the stone path caused Mary to look up, and John watched as her warm smile instantly transformed into something resembling panic. "Mr. Anderson," she gasped, quickly standing and smoothing her apron with nervous hands. "We weren't expecting you back until next week." "I would have prepared." "Mary," John interrupted, his voice carrying an authority that made even this composed woman step back slightly. "We need to talk. Now." The boy looked between them with curious innocence, clutching a red sports car to his chest. John's heart lurched as he recognized it as an exact replica of his first Ferrari, a detail that couldn't possibly be coincidental. "Tommy, sweetheart," Mary said, her voice carefully controlled, "why don't you go inside and wash up for lunch? Mrs. Peterson has those chocolate chip cookies you love." But here's what John couldn't have expected. As the boy ran past him toward the house, he paused and looked up with those familiar green eyes. "Are you the man in Mama Mary's pictures?" he asked with the directness only children possess. The question hit John like a physical blow. Mary's face went completely pale, and John felt the ground shift beneath his expensive Italian shoes. "Pictures?" he managed to ask, his voice barely above a whisper. Once Tommy disappeared into the house, John turned to face Mary with an intensity that had intimidated boardrooms full of powerful executives. "Start talking. Right now." Mary's composure cracked just enough for John to see the weight of secrets she'd been carrying. "Mr. Anderson, please understand that everything I've done has been to protect." "Protect who?" John demanded. "That boy?" "From what? From whom?" But Mary had regained her composure, drawing on decades of experience managing the Anderson family's most delicate situations. "Some conversations require privacy and time," she said carefully. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion in your study." The walk to his study felt like the longest journey of John's life. His mind raced through possibilities, each more shocking than the last. The study itself seemed different somehow, not physically changed, but charged with the weight of secrets that were about to be revealed. Rich leather-bound books lined the walls, and afternoon sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting everything in a golden glow that felt almost sacred. "Sit down, Mary," John said, gesturing to one of the chairs facing his massive oak desk. "And this time, I want the complete truth." Mary perched on the edge of the chair, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "Mr. Anderson, there are things about your family that you've never known, things that were kept from you for what everyone believed were good reasons." "What kind of things?" John's patience was wearing thin. "The boy. Tommy, he's been living here for almost 3 years now. Your sister Sarah arranged it through a private trust, and she swore me to secrecy until..." "Until what?" John leaned forward, his knuckles white as he gripped the desk. Until she felt the time was right to tell you the truth about who he really is. John felt his world tilting on its axis. Sarah, his estranged sister who lived across the country and barely spoke to him anymore, had been orchestrating something significant right under his own roof. The implications were staggering, but one question burned brighter than all the others. "Mary," he said slowly, his voice carrying a dangerous calm, "whose son is he?" Mary opened her mouth to answer, but the sound of a car door slamming in the driveway interrupted them. Through the study window, John watched in complete shock as a familiar figure emerged from a taxi, Sarah herself, looking anxious and determined as she hurried toward the front door. "It seems," Mary whispered, relief and apprehension warring in her voice, "that question is about to be answered by the only person who can tell you everything." John stares at the hidden letter clutched in his trembling hands, the elegant handwriting unmistakably his late mother's. The words swim before his eyes as he reads them again. "The boy must be protected at all costs. Mary has sworn to keep our family's secret safe. The trust account I've established will ensure his future, but he must never know until the time is right." His heart pounds as he sinks into his father's old leather chair. A trust account? For that boy playing in his garden with Mary? The implications crash over him like a tidal wave. He fumbles through more papers, his hands shaking as documents scatter across the mahogany desk. "There has to be more," he whispers to himself, his voice echoing in the dimly lit study. The grandfather clock in the corner chimes noon, its deep resonance jolting John back to reality. He needs answers, and he needs them now. With the letter clutched in his fist, he strides toward his phone and dials a number he hasn't called in years. "Richardson Law Associates, how may I help you?" "This is John Anderson. I need to speak with Charles Richardson immediately. It's urgent." 20 minutes later, John sits across from his family's longtime attorney in the mahogany-paneled office that holds decades of Anderson family secrets. Charles Richardson, now in his 70s, adjusts his wire-rimmed glasses nervously as John slides the letter across the desk. "Charles, what the hell is this about? What trust account? And who is that boy?" Richardson's face goes ashen as he recognizes the letter. He opens his mouth to speak, then closes it, clearly wrestling with decades of professional discretion. "John, your mother made me promise." "My mother is dead, Charles. The promises died with her. I want the truth, and I want it now." The elderly lawyer sighs deeply, pulling out a thick file from his desk drawer. "There is indeed a trust account. Established 12 years ago by your mother. The beneficiary is listed as Timothy Jenkins." John's blood runs cold. Jenkins. Mary's last name. But wait, could this boy be Mary's son? The resemblance to himself suddenly makes perfect sense in an entirely different way. His mind races with possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. "Tell me everything, Charles. Every detail." But before Richardson can respond, the office door creaks. Both men turn to see Mary Jenkins standing in the doorway, her face pale as moonlight. She must have followed him here. Her usual composed demeanor has cracked, revealing the frightened woman beneath. "Mr. Anderson," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can explain everything." John whirls around, anger and confusion blazing in his eyes. "You've been lying to me, Mary. How long have you known about this trust? How long have you been keeping secrets in my own house?" Mary steps into the office, closing the door behind her. Her hands shake as she speaks. 12 years, sir. I've kept this secret for 12 years, just as your mother asked me to." "Whose son is he, Mary?" John's voice cuts through the tension like a blade. "Is Timothy your son? Is that why you've been so protective of him?" The question hangs in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Mary's eyes fill with tears, but she stands straighter, finding strength in her truth. "No, Mr. Anderson. Timothy isn't my son." She pauses, taking a shaky breath that seems to drain all the air from the room. "But he is your family." The words hit John like a physical blow. Richardson nods grimly, confirming what Mary has just revealed. John grips the arms of his chair, his knuckles turning white. What do you mean he's my family? Explain yourself right now. Mary looks between John and the lawyer, her protective instincts warring with 12 years of enforced silence. Your mother, she made me promise to never tell you unless something happened to her. Timothy, he needs to be protected from forces you don't even know about. Just as Mary opens her mouth to continue, footsteps echo in the hallway outside. All three adults freeze as they recognize the sound of small feet running. The door handle turns, and Timothy himself peeks into the office, his innocent eyes wide with curiosity. Mary? I was looking for you everywhere. Who's that man you're talking to? The boy's question pierces the heavy atmosphere like lightning. John stares at Timothy, seeing his own childhood features reflected back at him with startling clarity. The same determined chin, the same questioning eyes, even the same way of tilting his head when curious. Mary quickly moves to Timothy, placing protective hands on his shoulders, but the damage is done. The boy has heard too much, seen too much. And now, standing in this room full of family secrets, Timothy looks directly at John with an expression that will haunt the billionaire forever. Are you my daddy? John's hands trembled slightly as he held the letter, the lawyer's words echoing in his mind. A trust fund in an unknown child's name, managed secretly by his own family attorney for years. The pieces of this puzzle were forming a picture he wasn't sure he wanted to see, but he couldn't stop now. Mary, he called out, his voice carrying across the mansion's marble hallway. We need to talk. Now. Mary appeared at the top of the grand staircase, her usually steady demeanor showing the first cracks of uncertainty. She descended slowly, each step deliberate, as if she were walking toward her own judgment day. Mr. Anderson, I can explain. Can you? John interrupted, holding up the letter. Because I've just discovered that someone in my household has been keeping secrets. Big ones. The boy's laughter drifted in from the garden, innocent and carefree, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside. Mary's eyes darted toward the sound, a protective instinct flickering across her face that didn't go unnoticed by John. Sit down, John commanded, gesturing to the leather chairs in his study. And I want the truth. All of it. Mary perched on the edge of the chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. For a woman who had managed this household with unwavering composure for over a decade, she looked surprisingly fragile. The boy, John pressed, leaning forward. Tommy. Tell me about Tommy. He's a good child, Mary began carefully. Bright, curious, kind-hearted. That's not what I'm asking, and you know it. John's patience was wearing thin. Why does he look like me? Why is there a trust fund in his name? And why do I feel like everyone in my life has been lying to me? Mary's composure finally cracked. Tears welled in her eyes as she took a shuddering breath. Mr. Anderson, some secrets are kept to protect people. Not to hurt them. Protect who? John demanded. Me? Him? You? Before Mary could answer, the sound of small footsteps echoed in the hallway. Tommy appeared in the doorway, his face flushed from playing outside, a soccer ball tucked under his arm. Miss Mary, can we? Tommy stopped mid-sentence, sensing the tension in the room. His young eyes moved between the two adults, confusion replacing his earlier joy. John stared at the boy, really looked at him this time. The same dark hair that curled slightly at the edges. The same determined jawline. The same expressive eyes that John saw in the mirror every morning. Tommy, sweetheart, Mary said gently, why don't you go wash up for lunch? But Tommy didn't move. Instead, he looked directly at John with a wisdom that seemed far beyond his years. Are you my daddy? The question hung in the air like a physical presence. John felt the world tilt on its axis, his carefully constructed life suddenly feeling as fragile as glass. John started, but no words came. Mary stood abruptly, reaching for Tommy. Come on, dear, let's give Mr. Anderson some quiet time. No. The voice came from behind them, sharp and familiar. It's time he knew everything. Everyone turned toward the doorway where a woman stood silhouetted against the afternoon light streaming through the windows. As she stepped into the room, John's breath caught in his throat. "Sarah," he whispered, staring at his estranged sister whom he hadn't seen in over 8 years. "What are you doing here?" Sarah Anderson Martinez looked older, her hair shorter and streaked with premature gray, but her eyes held the same fierce determination that had always defined her. She walked into the room with purpose, her gaze moving between John, Mary, and Tommy. "I'm here because it's time," Sarah said simply. "Time to stop pretending. Time to stop protecting everyone from the truth." "Sarah, please," Mary began, but Sarah held up her hand. "Mary has been a saint, John. She's protected that boy with her life, raised him with more love than most children ever know, and she's kept your family's secrets faithfully for years." John stood slowly, his legs unsteady. "What secrets?" "Sarah, what are you talking about?" Sarah's expression softened as she looked at Tommy, who was staring at her with wide eyes. She knelt down to his level, her voice gentle. "Tommy, remember how I told you that someday you'd meet someone very special? Someone who's been on a long journey but who belongs with us." Tommy nodded solemnly. Sarah stood and faced her brother, her voice carrying the weight of years of withheld truth. "John, meet your son." The words hit John like a physical blow. He gripped the back of his chair for support, his carefully controlled world crumbling around him. "That's impossible. I would know if I had a." "Would you?" Sarah's voice was both gentle and accusatory. "When was the last time you came home, John? Really came home, not just for our parents' funerals or business meetings?" The silence in the study feels suffocating as John stares at his sister Catherine, her words echoing in his mind. "He's your son, John. He's always been your son." Mary stands frozen by the doorway, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. The boy, sensing the tension, peers around the corner with those unmistakable Anderson eyes, John's eyes. "That's impossible," John whispers, but his voice lacks conviction. Deep down, fragments of memory are crystallizing. A brief relationship 5 years ago with Emma Sullivan, a kind-hearted teacher who worked at the local community center. Their whirlwind romance that ended when his business demands pulled him away. Her sudden departure from town without explanation. Catherine steps forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Emma was pregnant, John. She came to me because she knew you were drowning in work, building your empire. She didn't want to burden you, but she also couldn't raise a child alone on her teacher's salary." Mary finds her voice, trembling. "Miss Catherine asked me to help. Emma, she got sick when little Tommy was just 2 years old. Cancer. She made me promise to take care of him until..." Her voice breaks. "Until you were ready to be his father." John's legs give out, and he collapses into the leather chair. "Emma's dead?" The question comes out as a broken whisper. 2 years ago, Catherine confirms. "She watched you from afar, saw how consumed you were with business. She made Mary promise to wait, to let Tommy know you only when the time was right." The boy Tommy steps fully into the room now, his small hand reaching for Mary's. "Mama Mary, why is everyone crying?" His innocent voice shatters something deep inside John's chest. John looks at his son really seeing him for the first time. The familiar stubborn cowlick, the way he tilts his head when curious, the dimple in his left cheek that John sees in the mirror every morning. How had he missed it before? "Tommy," John says softly, kneeling down to the boy's level. Do you know who I am?" The 4-year-old studies John's face with surprising intensity. "Mama Mary says you're the man who makes sure we have a nice house and good food. She says you're important." John's heart clenches. Even in his absence, Mary had spoken kindly of him to his own son. "Would you like to know a secret, Tommy?" The boy nods eagerly, and John feels Catherine's encouraging hand on his shoulder. "I'm your daddy. I've been away working, but I'm home now, and I want to spend time with you. Would you like that?" Tommy's face lights up with pure joy. Really? Like how Billy's dad plays catch with him. Exactly like that, John manages, his voice thick with emotion. We can play catch, read stories, build things together. Anything you want. Over the next hour, years of separation begin to bridge as John learns about his son's favorite dinosaur, Triceratops, his fear of thunderstorms, and his dream of becoming a firefighter. Mary watches from nearby, her relief palpable as she sees father and son connect naturally, as if making up for lost time. Catherine pulls Mary aside. You've done something beautiful here, Mary. You've raised him with so much love. He needed a family, Mary replies simply. Mr. John, he needed to remember what really matters. As evening falls, the mansion transforms. The sterile, impressive space becomes alive with laughter as Tommy shows John his favorite hiding spots, his collection of toy cars, and his drawings that Mary has carefully saved. Each crayon masterpiece reveals glimpses of a child who's been loved but longing for his father. During dinner, John makes a decision that surprises everyone, including himself. Mary, I want you to know that this is your home too. You're not the maid anymore, you're family. You've given Tommy something I never could have alone, and I need you to help me be the father he deserves. Mary's tears flow freely now. Mr. John, I don't know what to say. Say you'll help me learn how to tuck him in at night, how to make his favorite breakfast, how to be present for all the moments I've already missed. That night, as John sits by Tommy's bedside reading Goodnight Moon for the third time, he realizes that everything he thought mattered, the deals, the money, the empire, pales in comparison to this moment. His son's sleepy voice asking, "Will you be here when I wake up, Daddy?" breaks and rebuilds his heart simultaneously. Every morning, Tommy. From now on, every single morning. Later, as John stands in the garden where this incredible day began, he thinks about Emma and the sacrifice she made. Tomorrow, he'll take Tommy to visit her grave, to share stories and ensure his son knows how much his mother loved him. Catherine joins him in the moonlight. You know what the funny thing is? You came home today thinking you were successful. But you're only becoming successful now. John nods, understanding flooding through him. The best investment I never knew I made. The next morning, Tommy bounds into his father's room at sunrise, and John keeps his promise. He's there, arms open, ready to begin the most important job of his life, being Tommy's dad. What moments have made you realize what truly matters in life? Share your stories in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible tales that remind us what family really means.